Thank you, Bruce. I'm told this doesn't always work. Is it working now? Good. Get rid of that thing. I was asked if I would read to you my, I guess, speech from last year's cenotaph. My first cenotaph in Collingwood was 25 years ago. So I missed 3 years for various reasons, health being one of them. But this becomes my 25th anniversary of standing at the cenotaph and welcoming people who come to remember. And Bruce, can I take a second?
Certainly.
I want to tell the people about that first one, if you don't mind.
No?
I was asked if I would do it, and I reluctantly said yes, not knowing it would be a 25-year stint. And so there I stood. I don't know what I expected, but I did not expect what happened. The parade started, and it was led by a red truck. And on the red truck was a person winding up on the old gramophones, leading the parade. And I thought, oh my God, is that the best Collingwood could do? A little while later, in Thornbury, I took a funeral with Sheila Stuart, the piper. Many of you will know that name. And she was piping the funeral, and I was taking it. And afterwards, leaning in our cars, she said, you know, I think I could get a pipe band going in Collingwood if we had a place to practice. But we have no money, and we need a place to practice that will tolerate the bagpipe. Well, I went back to the Legion. I was already Padre there, and said, look, Tuesday nights are free. They've been there ever since. And so we had the Burngorm Highlanders leading our parade. So I just thought I'd like to share what my first experience was. I call this a reflection from Collingwood's cenotaph. Lest we forget. Words that can be read by thousands of Canadians who gather at cenotaphs today to honor those who lost their lives in the conflicts that Canada has been involved in since the start of the First World War. I would dare say that those are words inscribed in most, if not all, of Canada's cenotaphs. Interestingly, the words themselves predate that First World War. Excuse me. They were written by Rudyard Kipling, one of Britain's great literary voices. He wrote a poem for the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Victoria called Recessional. A poem that sounded a somber note of caution to a nation he felt was too proud of its imperial accomplishments, which he felt might cause it to lose sight of its true national identity. Kipling wrote a refrain into the poem that will be familiar to many. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. While Kipling's poem may be largely forgotten today, the words of his refrain should still have a place in our hearts on this and every Remembrance Day. The words, lest we forget, should never be looked on as a sentiment echoed only on November 11th, because they present us with an ongoing challenge as we live our lives in an often tumultuous world. Thank you. It's amazing how frogs come at the most unwanted moment.
There's no scotch in it.
What was that?
There's no scotch in it. You don't know what it is.
Who invited Ken Temple? That's what I want to know. Thank you, Sandra. The words "lest we forget" should never be looked on as a sentiment, echoed only on November 11th, because they present us with an ongoing challenge as we live our lives in an often tumultuous world. Lest we forget begs a question. Lest we forget what? Lest we forget the past. The past that speaks of so many lives lost, the repelling forces of evil that would have taken our freedom. Lest we forget that the sacrifices made in the wars we remember today, sacrifices made at such places as Vimy Ridge, Dieppe, and Juno Beach, left us with a legacy of proud service and sacrifice that added immensely to who and what we are as a nation. Forgetting those whose lives were sacrificed, along with those who fought and returned, would be to turn our backs on the courage and valor that did so much to bring us to nationhood. Lest we forget the present. The sacrifices of the past place on you and me and all Canadians a responsibility to protect the freedoms those men and women fought to achieve. It is incumbent on us to make sure that we speak up with one unified and Canadian voice when those freedoms are challenged, infringed upon, or in some way placed in jeopardy. To do less would be to turn our backs on the sacrifices of the past and the courage and valor that accompanied those sacrifices. Lest we forget. Lest we forget the future. A nation that dares to forget those defining moments of the past, defining moments on the battlefields of the great wars and the battlefields of more recent times, moments that laid the foundation for a Canadian identity. That nation that would dare to forget would surely not be worth remembering by those who will come after, except as an object lesson of yet another nation that ended up in the dustbin of history. It is an identity that all present and future Canadians, including all newcomers to our nation, must be encouraged to embrace with heartfelt gratitude. As countless numbers gather around Cenotaphs today, we must hope that future generations of Canadians will do likewise and recall with pride the accomplishments of those who went before and look with pride to the past and look with hope and confidence to the future. Thank you.